Hey everybody, I'm Sean. Welcome to another episode of Angling Spiders. Welcome back everybody. On today's episode, as you can see, it is another beautiful day here in Southern Alberta, and that means I need to get my Mako 8.5 Air inflatable kayak ready for the open water season. In order to do that, I need to make sure that I've got all the gear ready, which includes a fish finder. Now, this kayak does not come with a mount for a fish finder, so I'm going to have to install one, and that's what I'm going to be doing on today's episode. I am going to be installing the Scotty Transducer Mount with a gear head adapter onto the side of this Mako 8.5 Air so that I can use it for my fish finder and my transducer, and I'm ready to go very soon on the water. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's get to it. First, I'm going to show you the things that you need in order to do this. Then I'm going to show you the install. First of all, of course, you're going to need the transducer mount itself. And in this case, I went for the Scotty 141 transducer mount because it also has a gear head adapter on it that slides into a rail. Now, you might be asking yourself, you don't have a rail. That is correct. So we are also going to have to install a rail. For that, you're going to need something for the rail to sit on, and that is why we have this, the Scotty 341 glue-on pad adapter for inflatable boats. So this is what we are going to glue onto our kayak, and it's going to provide the surface that we can attach the rail to. Now, I should say that the Scotty 141 does come with a rail, but it's too long. It will not fit onto the glue-on pad, so you need to buy the proper one, and that is this, the Scotty 439 track adapter for glue-on pad. And once we've glued on our pad and it's set, we can then screw this into it, and we are going to have a rail system. In order to glue everything onto the kayak, you need some appropriate glue, and it needs to be the proper glue. In this case, an adhesive that will work on PVC. In my case, I went down to our outdoor store and they recommended LA 4123. This product is from Clifton, and I did look it up online along with the instructions, and it does say that it is for PVC, and this one comes with a brush in the can. Once you've got your transducer installed on the rail, you then need something to hold your fish finder. So I also got the Scotty Universal Fish Finder mount that is, of course, gear adapted, so it can sit now on top of the gear head adapter that is on the transducer mount itself. And then the last two things you need: a pen of some kind, in this case a Sharpie, to mark the location of your pad, and I've got some 220 grit sandpaper that I'm going to use to rough up the area where I'm going to glue to, just gently. You obviously don't want to sand too much, but just rough it up a little bit so that the pad sticks even better. All right, everyone, so let's get started. The first critical step here is making sure you test fit where you're going to put this thing. Now, the Mako does come with a glue pad already installed for a rod holder. I'll show you that right now. So this is the pad that comes with the Mako 8.5 Air, and you can see that there is a pad that's glued on here for this rod holder. So that gives you an indication of how you might want to mount it, but you still need to make sure that it's in the right spot for you and that you are going to be able to reach it from your seat, that it's going to be the right distance, and also that it's going to allow the transducer arm to be in the water at the proper depth and the proper angle. And the biggest piece, as I said, is making sure that it's the right distance so that the arm of the transducer is going to be able to sit properly on the side of the kayak without rubbing on it too bad. So I basically, given that, want it to be about right there. So the next step is to unbox the pad, get it where I want it, and then I can trace it so I know where to put the glue. All right, one last thing to consider in your positioning of this pad, and this is critically important, is that you have to remember that when this kayak is deflated, it's going to fold into various parts. and you do not want to put this where there would be a fold. So because of that, and since I know that the pad on the other side is in a location that allows it to fold properly, I have decided to match it to the same location. It's only a difference of about 5 inches anyway, and I think that's the smart move here to make sure that I have no issues when I deflate this thing and want to put it away, and this doesn't get in the way of any folds. All right, I've decided where I want to put it, so I've measured out the distance, and it's roughly the same distance from this pad as the one on the other side, and it's also the same, almost in exactly the same location on the pontoon itself. So the next step is to trace out where this is going to sit when it's glued on. And I should mention that you really want to follow the directions on these adhesives. This one requires a certain temperature. It's warm enough today, but you don't want to be doing this if it's not going to bond properly. So there we go. That is the area that I'm going to put glue on. And the way this adhesive works is you put glue on the surface you're gluing to, as well as on the pad itself. And so the next step for me is to rough this up just a little bit. As I mentioned, I don't want to do this too much. I just really want to rough the surface up. The other thing I'm going to do is rough up the back of this. Get some scratches on there. Now I need to make sure I wipe this to get rid of any residue and let it dry thoroughly. All right, so we've got our surfaces scuffed. We've got our pad ready, we've got our kayak ready, we've got our adhesive. One important thing about this Scotty pad that's important to read is it says right here, ensure that the square nuts, the 1/4 inch square nuts, are installed prior to permanently bonding. So these come, or at least on mine, they came in there already, but you want to make sure that those nuts have not fallen out, because if they have, you are not going to be able to screw your top plate into this, and that's going to be a problem. So next step is to cover these with adhesive. As I said before, this one has a brush in the lid. Well, I might have wanted a bigger brush than this, right up to the edges. And it actually says in the manufacturer's instructions for this adhesive that once it's coated, both sides, this and the kayak, you should let it sit for 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, like contact cement, and then actually apply another thin coat, then wait another 3 to 5 minutes, and then bond them together. Now you also want to do this in a well ventilated area. Obviously I'm outside, but this stuff does have a smell to it. All right. I'm just going to put a little bit more here because I didn't have that much to begin with. All right, we've got the pad done. Now we're going to do it on the area where we have drawn our boundaries. I'm going to let that set up for about 3 minutes. I'm going to come back and do another thin coat, and then we're going to stick these together. All right, it has been 3 to 4 minutes, and I can tell you it feels like it's dry, but that's how it's supposed to be. If I was to touch those two surfaces together, they would bond. So I'm going to put on the second coat. All right, I've waited another 3 minutes, and now it's time to carefully line this up and get this installed. And it is wanting to stick already. That's a good sign. and it stuck instantly when I put that down there. So, well, the only thing left to do is you may want to put some weights on various parts of this just so that it doesn't pull away. I don't think it will, given how well it's currently gripping, but you might want to. And so I'm gonna set something here and something on the top. I can't really set anything on the side. There's just no way for me to do it, so I just have to hope that that bonds properly. If it lifted just a little bit, which I don't think it's going to do, but if it did, you could also finish it off with a bead of marine grade silicone at the end of it, but I don't think I'm going to have to do that. It seems to have worked perfectly, and that is how you install a mount system onto an inflatable kayak. All right, everybody, that has to sit now for 24 hours before I can install the track onto that pad. So I am going to basically clean up all my stuff, put them away, and let this thing sit for 24 hours. I will come back afterwards and show you what it looks like with the entire fish finder mounted to my inflatable kayak. So I'll see you in a day. All right, everybody, it is now 24 hours later, and this thing is good and stuck. There are no lips, there's no edges. It is on there. So, all right, now all we have to do is install the rail, and in order to do that, it's very simple. We just have to use the bolts that came with the rail mount, and we will be good to go. It is that simple. It's ready to go. Last thing I'm going to do is show you guys what it looks like with the transducer arm in it, and then this one's a wrap. And there we are, you guys. The transducer arm is installed. It's adjusted for the right depth. You now got the track mount on top. It is ready to go, and this model actually also has a swivel, so you can get it out of the way and then bring it back and drop it back down. So there we go. All right, so there it is. That is how you install a rail on an inflatable kayak. I hope that helped for those of you that are looking to do this, and you will see more episodes coming up of me using this kayak with everything installed very soon. So thanks for joining me, and as always, if any of you liked the video, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and until next time, good fishing.